Hi, everybody. You guys all ready? Enthusiasm? Yeah, we're ready. Yeah. No? All right, so I'm going to ask one specific thing before we get started, and it's this. Do me a favor. Please turn off your laptops, your laptop, tablets, phones, etc. It's only going to be an hour-long talk. Hopefully it's compelling enough to keep your attention. If you need to take notes, we have a total of 15 notepads up here. So if somebody wants one of them, go ahead and grab them. But I just think it's kind of rude when people are texting in the middle of a conversation. Sound cool? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go over some goals first. It makes it a lot easier for you guys to understand what to expect from me in order to see if this is going to be worth your time. I would take 2, personally. They're cool. Just saying, they're like hoodies. I love it. All right, first of all, I'm going to go over my background really fast. I think it's important for you to know who I am and what I do. I'm going to talk a little bit about what inspires me. The reason is because I think that if you guys hear about what inspires me, that's pretty much what leads to my design thinking. See, I told you they were cool. I would hurry up. I'm just going to pause right now. And there's one left. Hold on. There you go. Done. All right. I was being honest. I'm going to go over my core principles. The reason why this is important is because you should always understand what somebody's principles are to try to get a good sense of why they design what they design. And I'm also going to talk about advice as you start your career. I'm assuming that all of you are probably going to be getting a job after you graduate, or hopefully you'll be getting a job after you graduate. Yeah? Some nods? No? So I'll give you some advice. Here's what this won't be. This won't be your typical design talk. I remember when I was you sitting watching me talk about color palettes for 45 minutes. It's a bore. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about grid alignment, or any of that. This isn't going to be your normal design talk. I don't take firm sides on popular debates. You know, schemorphism, is that what it's called, versus flat? I don't care. I don't think we should. It's a fashion statement to me. I don't bag on the competition. I did that once. It was blogged about for 2.5 weeks. I'll never do it again. It was bad for me. And I won't try to sell you on LinkedIn. I'll definitely go over what I do. We'll probably spend maybe 4 slides on it, but the rest of it is really going to be for you guys, not me. Good? Yeah? You guys are not enthusiastic at all. Good? Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm insecure. I need some feedback. Okay, background. So when the world was transitioning from grunge rock, from hair metal to grunge, don't laugh, it's what the world was doing. I was at Pacific Autism Center for Education. We worked with autistic kids, and one of the things we used to do is we used to redesign group homes. It was really interesting to redesign a physical space for people that had disabilities, because it taught you a lot about how people hold things and what their expectations are. That's actually where I got my start. When the world then moved to something a little bit more exciting, which was, Clueless and Britney, and Steve Jobs came back to Apple and invented the first iMac, I was with a company called Electronic Arts. We did video game design, but we also did children's educational software, which is really kind of cool. Those were good times. Okay, when we were moving from the Motorola flip phone to the iPhone, I was with Adobe. I was there for 10 years. So a majority of the problems you guys have with Photoshop, that's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm not proud of it, but it was a moment for me, okay? All right. Just let it happen. All right, and then now, since the world's fallen in love with your favorite drug-dealing teacher, and we're still talking about Miley twerking, I've been with LinkedIn. It's really hot back here, so I'm sweating, so I'm really sorry. All right. LinkedIn's been an interesting ride, because what I've done is that we've built an organization that's strongly comprised of front-end web developers, user researchers, voice and tone, product designers, and brand and marketing designers. The reason why that's important is because I had this feeling that if you're going to talk about the user experience, even from a branding perspective or a code perspective, you should all be a part of the same organization. In far too many companies, what would happen was somebody would design something, throw it over the fence, the developer would say, I can't do that. I think that if the developer is beholden to the same principles of good design, he or she will find a way. Now, when I started in 2009, and God, it's really hot. When I started in, this is our multi-app experience, I'm sorry. When I started in 2009, this is what LinkedIn was. This is what I got. Right now, this is what the team and I have built. What we're currently working on is something a little bit more like this. This is the new global redesign that we're currently thinking about. When you start talking about a redesign like this, you need to take some things into consideration. It needs to be emotional, authentic. What I mean by that is you need something that really resonates with people. Not just the words, but the way that it looks, the way that it feels, the way that the content sits inside it, and the way that it makes them feel powerful and useful. It needs to be 100% responsive. Everyone calls responsive design the ability to resize windows. We call responsive design the ability to change users really quickly and the entire interface changes. We also wanted something that could be 100% mobilized. Right now, we need to be where our members are, which means that we not only need to be on desktop, we need to be on tablets, we also need to be on phones. So always kind of thinking about what are the different experiences is very important. Accessibility is huge. Not all of our members have full use of their voice even, eyes. We literally have a gentleman who works for us that's blind right now, and he's helping our accessibility. And we need something that is 100% searchable. At our core, we're a search tool. So being able to have really powerful search tools to help people achieve their goals quickly is important. All right, so that's LinkedIn. That's really the end of the sales pitch. Inspiration. This is a question I get asked a lot, like what inspires me? So I like to kind of talk about this. I geek out on how things work a lot. I think it's important to really understand the mechanics behind things and understand why things behave a certain way. This is a transmission from a car that I love, and it was really important for me to understand the smallest attributes of how this transmission worked in order to understand how the horsepower was transmitted to the wheels. I love home design a lot. Any of you that think you want to be interior designers, I recommend doing it. It doesn't pay very well, but I think it's really cool. When you're designing the inside of somebody's home, you're kind of showing them how they want to live, right? You're giving them an opportunity to feel powerful. You're giving them an opportunity to feel safe, secure. I think it's very important to think about those elements. Those should go into your everyday design thinking. I'm a fanatic for fashion design. I used to go to New York Fashion Week a lot, but my current job prevents me from doing that. Never mind, we'll talk about that later. But this is very important. If you agree with fashion trends or not, understanding what the world believes is a fashion trend is very important to your daily design. Automotive design, passion of mine. This is a 1-to-1 scale of the Mercedes SLS. This is how the Mercedes team convinced Mercedes to build this car. They built this 1-to-1 scale Clio model. It evoked such emotion even after the skin was put on it that people wanted to buy it, not realizing that it wasn't a real car. When it debuted at the Frankfurt Auto Show, they debuted this. And again, people didn't realize it wasn't a real car. They didn't realize it was clay, which is why nobody was allowed to touch it. I used to go to around 25 concerts a year, which is why my ears still buzz. This is a live footage from a Nine Inch Nails tour we were at. I think music is very important for your everyday designing, very important. There's something very emotional about music. Doesn't matter what you listen to. It brings back memories. It evokes certain responses, and I think it's important for you to tap into that emotional aspect when you're designing. People. All these clips are from something going on in San Francisco. That's where our headquarters is. We're in Mountain View. And when you're thinking about people in general, what are the things that really help people do their achieve their goals per day? Like, what are they thinking about right now? It's not only the product of which you're creating. It's the news, the weather, it's traffic. It's how they're going to get to work, what they're going to do after work, what they're going to eat. All those things are very important. Whatever you're building for them is just a piece of it. It's not their entire world. I think a lot of designers get wrapped up in this is my whole world. It's not. It's just a piece of it. This is my favorite thing. I love technology. I love future technology the most. I love how much I believe life imitates art. I geek out on special effects. I've got friends that work for a company called Digital Domain in LA, and they build some of the best special effects on the planet. And it's funny because I'll look at their stuff and say, God, I want that now. And that kind of brings me to this. Can anyone name this guy? Oh, come on. All right. This to me is the single best designer ever in the history of the planet. I'll give you a small little hint. Still no? Someone say it. I'm gonna let the whole thing run until someone says it. Sorry? No. No? Wait, what? Thank you. Okay, that was Gene Roddenberry. He's the creator of the original Star Trek. The reboot is good, but I'm still going to bag on it. Not that new crap, the original 1960s Star Trek. That was Gene. Here's the reason why Gene's the best designer in the history of the world to me. Gene invented the tricorder, which later became Motorola's flip phone. He invented the first tablet. Look like Google Glass to you? Because the first time I saw Google Glass, I started cracking up. No one else got the joke but me, but I'm old. He invented the taser. This is the phaser. In the original Star Trek, he said we're going to have a weapon that allows you to disable somebody without killing them. First medical device that is now a defibrillator. Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek, 1960s. Universal translator that's currently used in the UN. That look like a Bluetooth headset to you? Because it does to me. Skype. I'm still waiting for the transporter. I'm positive now that Google has bought Nest, they will build the transporter. I'm excited. Anyhow, the point that I'm making is all of those things were invented in the 60s. All of them. And to this day, as technologists, all of you, when you think about the things that inspire you, in a lot of cases, it was things you may have read about as a child or may have seen in the latest movie. Think about that. All right, design principles. So quality matters and consumers notice. I have a lot of conversations where people ask me why I'm going to spend so much time on so many features people won't even notice, and I disagree with that. People notice. They notice a lot, which brings me to my second slide, MVP. How many of you have heard of MVP? How many of you believe in it? Like how the hands were like, your hand's still up. Okay, good. Here's my problem with minimal viable product. I think it's taken out of context. Here's why. A lot of engineers, a lot of product managers draw this on a board. They say pick two. I don't believe in that because normally the thing that doesn't get picked is quality. Almost always. We don't pick quality, and that doesn't make sense. If you ever see what the real definition of MVP is, it's this lengthy thing that I won't make anybody in the room read, so I'll cut it down to this, and I'll even cut it shorter to this. MVP is for early adopters that are thought to be more forgiving. It is not for your average consumer. And I think a lot of small businesses that I see, they try to put the MVP out for everybody, which means that they're using people as guinea pigs. It's inappropriate. You should try to figure out how to build the minimal quality product, not the minimal viable product. So we're going to play a game. We're going to play the quality versus viability game. This is where we talk about what's minimal viable versus what's minimal quality. You guys ready? Yeah? Okay. Which one of these two is minimal viable? Walmart. Right. Walmart has more market share than most companies on the planet, but people still love Target. Target's considered, in my opinion, to be a minimal quality product. Walmart's a minimal viable product. Doesn't make you feel good. How about this one? Which one's minimal viable? 7-Eleven. Right. If you guys only have $5, you're coming home after something, okay, great, go get a Slurpee. But if you actually want a meal that's going to be nutritious, not make you fat, you probably want to go to Whole Foods. Again, same thing here. Minimal viable. McDonald's. Okay, here's one for the ladies. Would you guys rather be wearing Louboutins or Crocs? Did someone actually say Crocs? Winnie. Okay. I want everybody to look at Winnie. You'd rather be wearing Crocs. Winnie, we are talking after this talk. The point that I'm getting at is concentrate on making a minimal quality product, not a minimal viable product. Minimal viable products are normally things that most people don't use, but they have to. Here's another example. Which one of these is minimal viable? I said I wasn't going to take any stabs at them, so I'll do this instead. This is the Windows store at Valley Fair next to my house. Please notice everybody in that room that's wearing a blue shirt works for Microsoft. I then literally turned around and took a picture at the store across the hall, which was the Apple store. Please recognize everybody in that store wearing a blue shirt also works there. I don't see too many blue shirts. What I'm getting at here is that the Microsoft store pales in comparison to the Apple store, at least in my hometown, because people normally want to touch what's in the Apple store, even if they don't own it, if they don't buy it. There's something very quality about it. That's very inspiring. I've been noticing recently, even something like Consumer Reports has been kind of going into this. When gas mileage was king, they used to just always talk about miles per gallon. But now, I mean, look at this. It gets 34 miles overall, but it's slow and it's noisy. You know, same thing here, cramped driving quarters. This one says it's got a rough ride. The name of this article was 5 cars to avoid, right? I think. I'm sorry, 5 new cars to avoid. Just 3 years ago, these same 5 cars got some of Consumer Reports' highest picks because of the miles per gallon. These same cars are now showing up on the ones you want to avoid because there's poor quality. Something about that. So the world is finally kind of getting it. I'm going to bore you with this because it's important. Have you guys seen this Audi commercial? The I Made This commercial? This is kind of fun. Watch this.
That's me. I made you something. I made you something too. See you next summer.
Exceptional.
I got 3 comments. 1, that kid's the man. 2, my 9-year-old boy better be that kid. Okay, now here's the one for the room. 3, Audi has been realizing that the way that they're going to compete against BMW is to talk specifically about quality, and they have a series of commercials very similar like this. They're talking about the difference between just, yeah, you can have it, or you can go big. Here's one, too, I think is very interesting. This is...
I'm a test pilot. Dealing with prototypes is part of my job. But when I'm off duty, I refuse to pay good money to be some TV manufacturer's guinea pig. That's why I pulled the trigger on Toshiba. They get it right before they release it. And their intuitive internet navigation makes it good to go. Testing unfinished products on civilians, that's a negatory.
The 6200 series LED.
Toshiba's embroiled in a battle right now with Sharp. One of the things that started happening is that Sharp's TVs, though incredibly good, started being shipped with buggy software. Toshiba started launching a series of commercials like that to talk about we're not going to put beta software on people. The very last part's the most important part of the entire commercial. He said, beta test stuff on consumers, that's a negatory. It was interesting, right? Because even they're kind of getting it. They're saying, oh, okay, fine. Maybe our TVs aren't as good as these other ones, but we're going to make sure we double down on the software so that Netflix works properly, Hulu works properly, it doesn't have bugs. The number 1 return on Sharp TVs right now is, in fact, some of the software. Okay, this is an interesting case. Is anyone familiar with the Domino's pizza case? No? Okay.
Pizza, where's the love? How are it? Bread, sauce, cheese, fresh ingredients. Doesn't feel like there's much love in Domino's pizza.
Domino's pizza crust to me is like cardboard.
Is that smart to watch? Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you watch.
I hear what some folks are saying about our stuff.
Oh, this sounds bad. Worst excuse for pizza I've ever had.
The sauce tastes like ketchup.
Totally void of flavor.
You know what? When you first hear it, it's shocking.
The cardboard complaint is the most common one.
This we hear over and over and over.
I mean, that hits you right in the heart. This is what we've done. This is what I've done, for 25 years now.
You can either use negative comments to get you down, or you can use them to excite you and energize your process and make it a better pizza.
And they did just that. What Domino's did was this. Does anyone know their old slogan? Probably not. You're all too young.
Get the door, it's Domino's.
Okay, but do you remember how many minutes? 30 minutes or less. That's no longer their slogan. Did you know that? They changed it. They changed it because 30 minutes or less meant delivering crappy pizza, right? They realized that their competition wasn't talking about delivering it fast. They were talking about delivering it good. So their competition was delivering a much better product, even though it took 45 minutes. Consumers noticed. So consumers started not going to Domino's and started going to Pizza Hut and other places. What they did was this. This entire campaign, which is on Netflix, I recommend watching it. It's actually worth the hour. It talks in detailed summary on how the company pretty much said, we're going to focus on quality, we're not going to focus on speed, we're going to build a better product, and their profits went up by, I think, 45%. So now they're back in the limelight as far as to-go pizza goes. And one of the reasons is because they started focusing on quality. Okay. This is one of my favorites. Design without business goals or decoration. I love this stuff during Christmas. If you don't have business goals, this is pretty much what you just created for me. Something that's really kind of pretty and it's useless, so it's pretty useless, right? Imagine if this was your next door neighbor year round. It's like, it makes no sense. And I know that it's funny to watch, but the reality is that this really, really, really is, to me, a principle. It's a goal. It's something where you have to understand the business goals. I was talking to some students earlier today, and one of the things I kept on saying to them is, who's your member and what is it that they really want? Not what is it that you want them to want, what is it that your member wants, and then build the product from there. I'm really big on this. Quality is a behavior, it's not a feature. I'll have conversations with engineers sometimes and they'll say, well, we can cut that feature, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Something that I really love, especially about musicians, especially about this particular company that builds violins, cellos, and other just beautiful instruments, is what they'll do is they'll have world-class performers come in and literally sit with the people that are creating the instrument. There's something so magical about that, because when you have somebody that says, here's the way that I hold it, and then you have the person who's building it just make it a little bit lighter. It really works. This is what it takes to have a quality product. You have to have it in your heart. You can't put it on an OKR. You can't make it a mission statement. It's got to be real. Here's one. Great experiences are made by great teams. I'm going to play something for you that is a group of musicians better than I guarantee you anybody in this room, but not playing in unison. London Philharmonic. Every sound you hear right now is coming from the world's best musicians. But it's noisy, it's not cohesive, it's not together. This to me is a whole bunch of designers not working together in unison. They all might be great as their little part, but they're not great when they come together. This is the same orchestra together. You get it, right? All right. All I'm getting at is this. When you work together as a team, you can build something that beautiful. When you work individually, you end up making a lot of noise. Global versus local optimization. I am big on it is better to globally optimize than locally optimize. An example of that's the following. This is the Petraeus race car. This is Lewis Hamilton. Anyone familiar with Lewis Hamilton? No? No F1 fans in here? Fine. Winnie, F1 fan? We're done, kid. All right. This is a globally optimized race car, which means that every single piece knows about the other components and they're all working together in unison. This is a locally optimized race car, which means that it's just a whole bunch of parts. If the people that are making the tires know nothing about the team making the brakes, you have a disaster. It'll actually kill somebody. You need to understand exactly how much grip that tire has to know exactly how much force it takes to stop. That's the reason why race cars are built in such a strategic fashion. Every single manufacturer, though they're all different, they all work together as one large team. And the Petraeus team actually invites all of them in-house to build their race cars together. So imagine having tons of these different companies. Like, I don't know how many of these parts are made by different companies, but I think it's like over 300. Imagine having 3 different representatives from 300 different companies all working together as one to build one car. This is like my dramatic effects slide. This is local pollution in China, or is it more global pollution in China? Because I don't think that cloud just sits over China. I think it pretty much goes around the entire world. So that's just a way to think a lot broader. Okay, question. What's the goal of the goalie on a hockey team? Okay, anyone else? It's kind of a trick question. Someone give me an answer. What's the goal of the goalie? I'll call on somebody. I'm sorry? Protect the net. Sir, I like you. Have you ever seen any of our talks? That's the goal. Good job. Why'd you say that?
Because, I mean, sometimes, I'm not a hockey fan, but sometimes the goalie actually leaves the net and he goes forward with the team. Because the goalie's standing there in the nets and the action isn't in the nets, then the goalie's not doing anything. He's wasted.
You should come work for us. All right. Evolution is key. Now, here's what's interesting about evolution. These are all the Superman crests since the 1930s. So a lot of people that don't even realize the damn thing has changed since the 1930s. It's changed several times. My 9-year-old loves Superman, and when I showed him some of this, he's like, what's all those stupid logos? I don't get it. Those are all the old ones, Bryce. Stupid, whatever. Anyhow, the point that I'm getting at, though, is that great brands evolve with their members. And that's something I want all of you to think about. Don't get very tied into, but this is what we do. If you guys start to see an opportunity, no matter what companies you go to work for, if you see an opportunity to branch out, I say take it. These are all brands that did that, right? The Gap did not start as a jeans company. They actually started as a record store. Does anyone know what Yamaha started as? Musical instruments. Actually, if you take a look at the Yamaha symbol, you realize that it's 3 tuning forks that are all overlapping. Many people don't recognize that. Does anyone know what BMW started out as? I'm sorry? Airplanes, right. That's why it's a propeller. Good. How about Tiffany, the jewelry company?
Glass and silver.
Stationary. Everyone thinks glass and silver. Different company. Weird, right? Stationary. You know? Everyone knows where Virgin started, right? Record company now making spaceships. Here's my favorite. Do you guys know who FMC is? Okay, FMC stands for Food Machine Company, right? They build the Bradley tank for the US military. They evolved. No. My point, all these companies found an opportunity where when they very first started, they were very successful. They built great products for their members. They then saw that the world was changing, they changed with it, and they're still here. I wouldn't be surprised if 50 years from now, all these companies were still here also, but probably not building what we think of. Nintendo started as a card game company, by the way, before they got into video games. Hi.
What did Flickr start as?
Flickr was a, hold on, in my notes, Flickr, yeah, game chat room. So funny, because I didn't say that once, I forgot. Right? So I'm sitting here, I'm like, what did Flickr do? What did Flickr do? I was like humming, what did the fox say in my house? But it was like, you know, what did the Flickr do? And thanks for calling me out on that. I appreciate it. We'll talk later. Okay. I'm a massive fan for user research. I think it's important for you to identify people's patterns and adjust to them. Something that's happening right now in a lot of stores that many of you don't know about is you're being watched. You're not being watched to see if you're shoplifting, you're being watched to figure out what you're going to buy. This company does that. They own the technology.
Unlike the online world, gathering data and pulling together a complete picture of your customer in-store has never been easy until now. With Retail Next, the comprehensive solution for gathering in-store performance data, analyzing findings, and visualizing key insights, you'll know exactly how your customer behaves. Retail Next combines the power of real-time video, on-shelf sensors, and other data sources to automatically let you know how many people walk into your store, where they go, what they look at, where they stop, and what they buy.
I don't want you guys to be creepy. That's creepy. But here's how I found out about this company. My wife was at Nordstrom. She had looked at this scarf 2 or 3 times. She didn't buy it. She and I walked in one day. Sales lady walked up to her and said, "Hey, Veronica, these scarves are on sale." She went, "Oh my God, I've been looking at these. Thank you." She bought them. We walked out of the store. Didn't feel right to me. Walked back in, said, "How'd you guys know?" She's like, "What do you mean? I'm like, how'd you know that Veronica's been looking at these scarves? I mean, I don't remember seeing you." "Oh, we have a software package." "You have a what?" "Yeah, we're using Retail Next." "You're using what?" And now I'm a fanatic, right? I think it's really interesting because it's getting to the point where it's not only being able to track cookies on the internet to see what you want to buy, it's hitting you when you walk into a mall to see what you look at. Or better understanding when you walk into a grocery store, if you pick up the peanut butter, if you don't immediately see jelly, do you go look for it or do you just put the peanut butter back? I think a lot of stores using this software have been seeing sales go up and up and up. This is real-time user research. Now, again, don't be creepy. And our head of user research is sitting in here someplace. She's probably going to yell at me, Julie. Julie, don't be creepy, right? I won't be creepy. But I think it's interesting for you guys to think about. Watch, observe, pay attention. Don't walk in with a preconceived notion of what you think people want. Ask them, watch their behaviors. Here's my advice, guys. This is, again, I'm hoping that all of you get great jobs after you graduate. This is the first one. You got to be fearless. It sounds cliche, but it's the absolute truth. I've employed a lot of people. I think I've hired, at LinkedIn alone, I've hired over 200 and some odd people. Magna, what, you were number 203 or something, 204. You have to be fearless. It doesn't mean walk in and be cocky. There's a difference between being cocky and being fearless. Cocky guys die. Fearless guys do fairly well. Okay? But don't be afraid to express your ideas and don't be afraid to speak up. It's important. It'll serve you well. Keep your hand on the pulse of what's current. I'm a pop culture fanatic, A, because I just like good trashy TV and I'm a Kardashian fan, but B, because I think it's important to understand what people are looking up to and admiring. What's the language? What's the latest joke? Doesn't mean you have to be completely immersed and involved in it, but you have to understand it enough to understand who your members are. When they get your product, it's one of a piece of things. All of this noise going on, doesn't matter if it's something as serious as a presidential election or something as crazy as, I don't know, I can't go to Miley again. I've already picked on her. Fine, Miley. It doesn't matter, okay? Whatever it is, just make sure that you kind of know what's current. You got to understand the difference between urgent and important. I used to spend a lot of time on this. I won't now. Here's my philosophy. Urgent is something that's important to somebody else. Important is something that's important to me. So when I get an urgent request, it's normally that this is really important to somebody else. They messed up, they couldn't do it, and I need to help them. That's not bad. It just means understand that. Because normally what happens is that you put your own things aside to go help somebody else. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for you guys, even now in school, that someone's going to come to you with something. You have to ask yourself, is that the best use of my time? Is that urgent or is it important? I suggest concentrate on what's important and have shared goals. Great brands create loyalty. This is one of my all-time favorite pictures. This was snapped at the Apple Store Palo Alto. Some guy literally walked out and kissed the sign. I just happened to be there. I asked him to do it again. He thought I was creepy and walked away. I've never experienced a company or a brand like that to where somebody is that in love, nor have I ever experienced a company or a brand that when the leader dies, that almost every Apple store in the country had this. And this is the same store in Palo Alto. This was on University Ave because Steve Jobs used to live in Palo Alto. These Post-its were up for quite some time the day that he died. And the outpouring of emotion and love that I saw for somebody that ran a company, none of these people had ever met him before, but they felt that attached to the brand was just, to this day, it's incredibly touching to me. I don't know if we're ever going to see another leader like this. I hope that somebody in this room becomes a leader like this. I think it's possible. Not everybody's like you. Okay, the guy in the blue shirt's name is Vinay. He's our director of web development. All the guys around him, they work for him. This was a Halloween prank. I think it's great. I use this picture to remind you, not everybody is like you. The reason is because the things that you see and the things that you think are great, they're uniquely yours. They may not be your customers. Here's an example. Is that a deity or is that dinner? Depends on where you live, right? So to some people, they think, oh yeah, this is a sacred cow, don't touch that. And other people go, yum. Think about that, especially when you're building something that's international. I think a lot of young designers make that mistake. They're like, this is the best thing ever. And generationally, it doesn't work. Internationally, it doesn't work, the whole bit. Just remember that. Not everyone's like you. A big piece of advice I like to give people is to switch it up. I've been ridiculed for this when people say, are you saying switch jobs every 5 minutes? No, I'm saying do something different. If you work for a company, when you graduate, I mean this, when you guys graduate and you go for work, if you end up working someplace that has you working on the same thing over and over again for 2 years, it is time for you to switch companies. I will say that on video stream, I will say that recorded, I don't care, it's the absolute truth. Because your skills are going to get atrophy. You're not going to be learning anything. You might be the best HTML programmer on the planet on that mail product, but you can't do anything else. So when you bump into someone like me, you're not very marketable. Even though you did a very good job on that one thing, I'm over it, right? If you worked on an email client for the past 5 years, since the whole world's going to text, I just don't care about you. It's important for you to seek out opportunities in your company to cross-train. You don't just want your arms big, you want your entire body to be fit. Find an opportunity to move around within the company, and if you don't have that opportunity, switch careers. It's very, very, very important. You'll get to a point to where you're not able to anymore, so you want to be as well-rounded as humanly possible. I'm huge on simplification. I found this designer when I was surfing the web a couple weeks ago, and kid's amazing. He's doing all these exercises on brand and brand treatments just to simplify. They're great. Like as you kind of go down the line, the ones on the far left are the originals, the one on the far right's what he ended with. In some cases, I think that he kind of went a little bit too far, but just the amount of simplification that he had, I think, is exceptional. I think it's a good opportunity for all of us to take a look at our final composite and ask ourselves, is it simple enough? I love this one because I love Nutella. But honestly, if somebody had said we should get rid of all the artwork on Nutella, I'd be like, no way, I wouldn't recognize it. But if you take a look at the very last one, you're like, no, that's still Nutella, and it's scrumptious and delicious. And I'll still buy it. Sorry. There's no substitute for human interaction. I've been seeing a lot of people that are relying on electronic means to communicate more than what we're doing right now. A lot. There's no substitute for interacting. This is a picture of our design team. The LinkedIn team gets together twice weekly, actually all the time, but twice weekly just to collaborate. These sessions are completely impromptu. Someone can walk up with a laptop, plug something in, and just say, give me feedback. These are just open collaboration sessions. I found this to be one of the most successful things that we do because everyone sends each other mail, but it doesn't really quite get the point across, plus you don't hear different perspectives. When you get together and you have conversations like the one that we're hopefully going to have in about 5 slides, you get a much, much, much better idea of what's on people's minds, and you can make better decisions. Don't rely on text. Don't rely on phones, don't rely on email, get together. When you start working, you're going to have somebody 2 cubes away that can answer your question. Don't send them an email. Get up and go have a conversation with them. And the people that overhear the conversation that chime in, they'll also add insight. It's very important. I'm huge on this. I got this picture from a friend of mine about 3 weeks ago, and I think it just completely explains this point. The journey is more important than the destination. She lost this race. No, she didn't. She won this race just by finishing. End of conversation. Pay close attention to what it took you to get to that solution. Learn from that. Iterate on it. Okay? A lot of people that I see, they just ship something and they forget the entire process. I think it's very important to remember that journey because it's often more important than your destination. Okay, I'm going to show this clip. I think I'm being hesitant about this because the last time I asked how many hands have ever watched Seinfeld, like 3 went up and I felt really old. Seinfeld fans? Damn it. Okay, God, thank you. Even if you're lying, thank you. Okay, here we go.
Oh, hi, Duncan. No, 4 o'clock tomorrow? That is not going to work. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I choose not to run.
Overly dramatic way for me just to make this point. Adopt, I choose not to, not I can't. This is very important. It's probably one of the most important pieces of advice you'll ever get from someone like me. When I go to a designer and they tell me I can't, then I say, great, who can? That's it. You've completely given power away. You've pretty much saying, I'm not capable to do it, maybe somebody else is. So I go and I find the person that can. That person's credibility was just lost with me. Their stock is gone. If somebody says to me, yeah, you know, I chose not to. Great. It means you have the ability to, but there was a reason why you choose not to. It could have been prioritization. It could have been you didn't think it was a good idea. It could have been something. But now we're going to engage in a conversation to where it's mutual respect. I now respect you because I believe you have the ability, but you've decided not to, and there's a good reason for it. Let's have that conversation. But I can't is what children say, right? Professionals say, I choose not to. Remember this. Okay. This is important. Look around. I like how everyone's like, you mean you're going to hire me? Person sitting next to you may hire you someday, and here's the Silicon Valley Wall of Fame. Okay, these 3 guys in the center, one of them's name is Reid Hoffman. He's the founder of LinkedIn. The guy sitting to his right is Alan Blue. The guy sitting to his left is Jean-Luc. These guys were all friends in college. They went to Stanford together. Reid then hired them into PayPal. He then started a little company called LinkedIn. These 2 sorority sisters started a company called Gilt. They were both into fashion. They said, you know, it'd be neat. They talked about it endlessly. These frat brothers all started a little company called Facebook. You may have heard of it. These 2 high school pals started a little company called Apple. These 2 sorority sisters also started a company called 23andMe. And these 2 guys, who also went to college together, started a little company in a garage called Google. The point that I'm making is, I think that when you're in academia, everybody in here treats each other like competition. It's weird. Tomorrow you're all going to be doing a whole bunch of interviewing. I have walked in that waiting room. You're all like dressed up, your little suits on like this, and no one's talking to anybody because you're competing with each other. Don't do that. This is a team. There's a lot of different teams of people in this room. The next generation of great companies are probably going to come out of this room. It won't be one of you. It'll be some of you. Okay? So think about that. Remember these days, and when you graduate, remember some of the superstars that you really enjoyed working with and be sure to hire them. This is my last slide, and it's the most important. Just have fun. This is my son and 2 of his friends literally 2 days ago. My wife sent me this. I think it's great. I think that you should never lose sight of just being able to have fun. Your job should be fun. Make it fun. If you work someplace that's not fun, go do something else. But I think that especially with designers, web developers, user experience professionals, we are in such high demand right now that you can really go work anywhere you want. So choose wisely. That's it. Questions, comments, thoughts? Thank you. Thanks. So I've got members of my team here too. I actually don't like the spotlight. So if you guys ask me a question I think is better for Amanda or Jesse. Where's Jesse? Jesse or Chelsea or anyone else, I might throw the question that way. So questions, thoughts, ideas? None? Hi, what's your name? You gotta tell me what your name is though. And what your major is. Hi Alex, stand up. Stand up.
Stand up.
You have to stand up. I'm standing up.
You mentioned minimum viable product versus quality.
Yep.
It seems like a lot of that has to do with brand naming. What's the difference between actual quality and appearance?
What do you mean? Give me a little bit more.
So, let's go McDonald's versus Subway. Are they actually different?
Yes.
Or are they getting the same thing? You know, how is it that how does it work between how we see a brand and how the actual quality is?
Understood. Tell me if I answer this. I think a 250 calorie turkey sub for $4 is better than 1,750 calorie Big Mac and fries for the same price. That to me is the quality difference, right? One of them is healthy, one of them is unhealthy. I also think that, to your point, quality in a lot of cases is perceived, right? Like somebody may say a Tiffany ring is better than, and it's because they believe in the brand. So I agree with you there. But what I'm getting at is that identify what are the ingredients of which make that a quality product, and don't skimp on them just so you can make a fast buck. If it's food, it could be preservatives. If it's software design, what I do, it could be cheap tricks and transitions, or we're only gonna make the homepage look great and everything behind it's crap. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. Hi.
Hi. I can't. I choose not to stand up.
Good. But you choose to tell me your name. But that's good.
I'm there.
Hi.
I'm with Alex, interaction design grad student.
Sweet.
You mentioned evolution of brands. Where do you see LinkedIn? I mean, 50 years is a big picture, but maybe 5 years down the road.
Absolutely. So the thing that we've been working on is trying to make us a lot more useful to what people want every single day. I think that the old LinkedIn brand was a whole bunch of old guys sitting around with BlackBerries making business deals. That's actually that's not us at all. Right now we're trying to become a lot more performant. We're trying to make sure that everybody understands its value. We're also trying to make sure it's a lot more helpful, and that's where you see this massive content play. LinkedIn isn't always about just knowing who got a new job. What are the things going on in my industry that I need to know? Do I know people that currently work there? Do I know people that can give me more insight? If I right now want to find web developers that speak Japanese and Cantonese that currently live in South America, I can find that on LinkedIn. If I can't, I can find people that can help me by simply posting that question, and then I can get responses. Did I answer your question? Okay. Other questions? Hey, man. I do like you, by the way. You're the only person to ever get that right, by the way. Good for it.
I'm Pavel, Master of Computer Interaction. Question. You mentioned that if you can't find sort of opportunities within the company to do something different, you should go do something else. And you seem to have had a running theme towards the end of sort of being true to yourself and being true to your practice and not the bottom line. Do you have any advice on sort of negotiating that? Because I think if you come to people who pay your salary with an ultimatum, they're a lot less likely to take it kindly than if you come to them with sort of a better approach. And I was wondering what that better approach might look like.
Amanda, what did you start out doing with us at LinkedIn? And then how did you move to the position that you're in right now?
Well, actually,
Stand up.
You want me to start at the firm?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, my background was originally in visual design, and I started out at a small firm in San Francisco that did work for LinkedIn. And when I met Steve, I was working on some branding stuff for him, and basically really believed in what he believed in as well, and he agreed a lot in the sort of decisions I was making. So then I decided to leave that firm and go work as a freelancer, because I wanted to try it out on my own. And LinkedIn was one of my clients. And Steve would ask me periodically, maybe every week,
every day,
join us full time. And I was like, no, I really want to try to give this a shot and try out BD on my own and try this freelance stuff. So I did that for a little bit, and then realized that I really enjoyed what I was doing on LinkedIn, and was like, okay, they're not going to keep asking me this question, so that's when I decided to go full time.
I think that I agree with you. You never want to give anybody an ultimatum. That's bad, right? do this, or you've just put them in a corner. I will say this, you can seek out opportunities within your company and possibly even have conversations with the people that are those key stakeholders. I don't think that it's ever bad to talk to managers within other departments. If you find that talking to a manager in a different department is looked down upon, you should reconsider if that's the right company for you to work for. And I mean that, right? That it doesn't make sense. As far as advice goes, I guess I won't use us as an example. I'll use a friend of mine that's at a different company across the street. What she did was, she wanted to work on a different product that they were currently creating. It's really easy to figure out who I'm talking about. If anyone knows what LinkedIn is, we're surrounded by these guys. And she found out about some problems that they were currently having, and she just kind of came up with some mocks of how she thought that they might be able to solve that problem. And she just emailed them to the person in charge of that area and said, hey, I would love to talk to you about this. Not talk to you about joining your team, talk to you about this. Obviously, through that conversation, he realized how much passion she had. Boom. Now she's on Gmail. Oops, I said the company name. So I think that the way is just show your inspiration in that area and just try to have conversations. But I will say this. If those conversations become fruitless, it's time for you to move because you're going to be stagnant. Other questions? Oh, wait. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it answers
Sweet.
pretty much entirely. Thank you.
No problem. Other questions? Hi.
I'm Andrea.
Hi, Andrea.
I'm in the interaction design program here at Alex. I was noticing what you showed us of the new idea for the profile page.
Yep.
That it seems a lot more visually oriented, with pictures and encouraging people to post images of their things they've worked on in their projects. And I was wondering if there's a strategy that you guys have for like easing in users who are not very visually oriented to make them feel comfortable with this new profile.
Me or you? You? Because what are we doing on Blue Steel? Yeah.
So,
I'll take the second part, you take the first part.
so we're actually doing some stuff on the phone itself that make everyone's profile more visually appealing, regardless if you're in the visual area or not. So we've called our project, I don't have to say what it is.
You can say the code name.
So the code name
I
is
think,
Blue
yeah.
Steel, so trying to make everyone visually what the
On the desktop, that's a great question because, to your point, not everyone's comfortable with that. I completely agree. One of the things that we're going to do is the fallback plan is going to make it so that if you're not that visually rich, your profile can still look like that because we can add things in. Like right now, one of the things Amanda's team did on the Blue Steel is it's color sampling from your photo. So all the background image behind it is a blurred version of that photo. Some early experiments are even if we should have things or color attributes of the profile that pick up from your picture. If you don't have a picture, we can go ghost image, but the ghost image wouldn't be that big. Maybe at that point it's a lot smaller, or it's just your name. So we could do some very nice typography so we could just have your name. If you don't want to put your projects on, that makes perfect sense too. We're still going to be able to fill in with content that you might be interested in or something. Remember, the LinkedIn profile is supposed to be your professional profile of record. This is supposed to demonstrate who you are, and it's also supposed to get people really excited about you. So if you're like, no, I don't want to add anything, then you don't want a digital footprint. That's fine with me. You probably shouldn't be on LinkedIn. But if you do want a visual footprint or a digital footprint, but you may not have the opportunity to put that much content into your page, we have lots of little things that we're working on that'll provide something for you so people understand who you are, right down to your company. If you work for Cisco Systems, right? Maybe what we'll have is, here's current news in Cisco. Is this things that you're interested in? Did you work on this? Those kinds of things. That by answering some simple questions, we can then populate. So that's all the thinking that we currently have. Did that answer your question? Okay. Hi. Okay.
I'm Vivian.
Hi, Vivian.
I'm an undergraduate communication science major in my junior year. And I was wondering, the amount of people on LinkedIn, I think colleagues also, like, you are like the, I guess, social network, if you will, although it's not really, with the largest user population. I'm wondering if you guys have like visions for making this a product where you want people to spend time on in their free time, or if you want to stick with your vision of making it like a professional profile where maybe in the future, like, we just saw this new visual, like more visually oriented prototype, it becomes maybe like a portfolio service or et cetera, et cetera. But is lot of confusion, I know, with people that use LinkedIn about, am I supposed to spend like time on this, you know, or like, am I supposed to enjoy this, or, you know? So I just wanted to get your
Am I
thoughts
supposed to
on it.
enjoy that? Have them call me. Julie, what do you think? We're going to ask the user researcher that, because I think it's an excellent question, so I'd much rather have data.
So that's a great question. We are hoping that people will find more value in spending more time on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people, I don't think any of us here, but people working on content. There's an influencers program where we have Richard Branson, I think is the most famous one, but 500 business leaders from all different industries kind of talking about leadership and talking about lessons that they've learned. So we think that's something that's causing people to want to spend a lot more time on LinkedIn and hopefully have fun and learn something along the way. And just today, actually, that program for the general public was released, and it's being kind of rolled out slowly to our general membership, but anybody will be able to do long-form content on LinkedIn and kind of share their thoughts and share their opinions and whatever it is that they've learned. So we're definitely moving in the direction of trying to get people to express their identity on LinkedIn, certainly, as Steve said, their professional identity of record, but also network and commune with other people and learn from them, and also kind of build their knowledge base as well. So we're trying to move in that direction.
My answer is both, Vivian, because I think that it depends on who you are and what you're doing. Back to my statements earlier about what's that customer need, right? If I'm a salesperson, you're going to spend time on LinkedIn, like real time. If you're a job seeker, you might spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. If you're very happy with your job, you know exactly what you're doing the whole bit, it might be more of a casual experience. You might just really kind of be interested in what are some things that are going on in my professional network that I want insights on. What's changed, what's moved. I think a lot of cases, like you'll go to a party, you'll bump into something, oh my God, hey, what's going on? What have you been up to lately? What we're trying to do is we're trying to answer that question of what have you been up to lately on the professional base. I think that other social networks are fantastic on figuring out if you had kids and what your vacation was, the whole bit. I think that what we want to be is what's going on in your professional life. And here's why, and this comes across candy, but it's really kind of like the what's in it for me, right? If I know that you have now been promoted to vice president of some great design firm that I've always wanted to work for, I now know somebody on the inside. That piece of information is very valuable to me, even if I'm happy with my current job, but oh my God, you work for my dream company. So now since you and I went to college together, I'm going to call you up and say, hey Viv, what's going on? And we're going to talk, we're going to catch up, and then you're going to say to me, you know, we're looking for, oh wow, I hadn't noticed. Yeah, bullshit. That's why we're having this conversation. But those little pieces of information is what is networking. I think a lot of cases people think of networking as being like a dirty word when it's not. Your parents told you it's about who you know, and they were right. And a lot of successful people will tell you that when they started a new company or they started a new venture, the very first group of people that they hired were people that they already knew. I have about 5 people working with me right now that I've been working with between 2 to 3 companies for the past 12 years. And if I were to leave tomorrow and go someplace else, there's a whole bunch of people that I would ask to come with me. The reason is because I know exactly how they work. So that tight relationship and that bond that I have with that person is what is going to get me into my next company and get them into theirs. Did that answer your question? Sweet. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Sadan. I'm doing my master's in entertainment technology.
Entertainment technology?
Yeah.
That's cool. We should talk about that. Okay.
And I'm pursuing UX design. So my question is, who do you, as a company, LinkedIn, who do you think is the competitor for LinkedIn? And do you think is Facebook a competitor for you guys?
I don't believe so. Jesse, what do you think? Stand up. What's with you?
I think there could be competitors that are more niche audiences. For example, what is that? Stack Overflow, example for developers.
Yeah.
There could be kind of smaller communities that service the job and career. But LinkedIn right now, we are truly not another more exhaustive network. It's more professional. But I think one key thing that our CEO tells us a lot is we don't play to our competition, we play our own game. Right. And that's why we're constantly pushing ourselves to do better things.
Yeah.
Because we're in like uncharted territory. Right? So we definitely from time to time compare our quality with other social network products, but we're really not in the same kind of same game.
Yeah. Word of mouth. I think is our biggest competitor, to be perfectly honest. And what I mean by that is, two things. One is that if you can get all of your network news, all your industry news, if you can figure out what positions are available where, if you can figure out insights on what people are doing just by kind of hanging out with your friends, if you don't need the technology at all, that's bad, right? It's not bad, it's great. It means you've got a great circle of friends. Another one, though, is brand awareness. The question earlier was spot on, which is, well, what was LinkedIn's brand then? What do you want to be now? And us really making sure that we up the level of what the brand awareness is to what we're doing now is very important. So people say, if I want industry news and knowledge, I go to, right? Like right now, if I were to say that you want search insights, you go to Google, right? If I want to, figure out if this restaurant is good or not, I might go to Yelp. If I want to identify what I can do with my career, where I want to go next, or even as a college student, where I want to go work, or even as a high school student, what college I want to go to, we want you to think of LinkedIn. That answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, sir.
My name is Max. I'm a
Hey, Max.
junior in communications design. My question is pretty much like, how do you see LinkedIn moving in the future as like the so-called Facebook generation, like kind of our generation, like start looking for jobs, and how our previous experience on the internet and Facebook and social networking will influence LinkedIn as a
Okay, I'll answer in 2 seconds. Chelsea hasn't said a word. That means stand up. Isn't it great when you work for me because I can demand? Like you guys, I have to ask. I'm like, could you please? You're like, no, I choose not to. She's like, ah, damn it. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So how do you see LinkedIn moving in the future as the Facebook generation kind of starts? If LinkedIn is kind of applicable to them, so starting their jobs and that kind of stuff.
I think we're moving on to more like a career path product. So from high school to even the time of your retirement, it's gonna be the one place that you will go to for getting advice, getting insight, meeting people you need for that specific path.
Also, I think the overall design and the business sense, look, one of the reasons why we've been focusing on mobile, one of the reasons why a lot of the screens that I showed of what we're going to build is so drastically different is because we are thinking about much different generations. Business changes all the time. I have this motto that I want to build for people that were born in 1986, not graduated from high school in 1986. And in order to do that, I have to understand all the technologies that people are currently using. Conversations are more disposable, a la phenomenal tools like Snapchat. So should we be so dependent on email, or should we start going towards messaging more? The question earlier about big pictures, et cetera, when we take a look at how many people have photos on LinkedIn, and then when we do cross sections on what we believe their age is, lo and behold, the younger, the more people have content, the older, the more they don't, that kind of thing. So we're trying to build a very content-rich environment of which you can have those kinds of things. Our entire multi-app strategy against mobile is fundamentally because of younger generations and international markets, right? Not everybody has a big bulky desktop machine sitting on their dining room table. People are normally using phones, that kind of thing. So what the company is doing is we're adapting to how business has changed. And business is a lot more mobile, it's a lot faster, it's not as reliant on email, it's much more content heavy, and it feels better. That's how we're doing it. Did that answer your question? Okay, I think we have time for 2 more. Okay, I think we have time for 5 more. Wait, didn't you out me on something? Pfft, whatever. No, I'm kidding, go ahead.
Sure. My name is Sanko Badigar. I graduated in May with a bachelor's in science and arts, mathematics, and communications.
Oh my God.
Thanks.
So impressive.
I've actually never, before this year, kind of approached LinkedIn with understanding of it being in kind of the forefront of storytelling.
Yep.
And I think that's something that's changing because, I'm sure you guys are aware of LinkedIn, but they recently announced influencer blogs.
Yep.
And I'm not quite sure if you covered it because it came to this late.
Yeah.
If you did, please forgive this question. The idea of the influence blogs and kind of sharing these narratives from people, people follow each other and kind of taking a bit a la Twitter, if you will, taking a bit of these stories that people are trying to actually tell and just kind of showing.
Yeah.
I think a big part of storytelling is story listening and reading, and that's kind of what influencer blogs seem to be doing. And I think that's an interesting direction. I was wondering if you could speak speak more to that's kind of the story you guys want to tell as a brand going forward.
Absolutely. Julie, influencers.
What to say about influencers? I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and your comment about Twitter is really interesting. I mean, Twitter is about really short expressions, and we deliberately made the choice to make our expressions really deep and more intimate and meaningful and generate conversations among people. And it actually surprised even us how much traction influencer blogs were getting, how much conversation they were starting, and how meaningful they were to people. So, like I just mentioned, the influencer program was kind of a pilot test actually to see.
That was a Hack Day project, wasn't it?
Yeah, can we do this thing? Are people interested in this thing? And then the idea was always to expand it out and create LinkedIn as a platform for professional meaningful communications that aren't really appropriate on other kinds of platforms. And to Max's question about generations as well, I mean, we're trying to, we see LinkedIn as kind of transitional social network for millennials, right? We've done a lot of research with millennials and young career professionals. All social networks are not created equal, so people are abandoning Facebook, young people are abandoning Facebook, and we're seeing them look to LinkedIn as the next meaningful social network for them. The ability to have meaningful conversations with both their close networking and kind of circling out from that is definitely something that's
Influencer was a amazing idea because it was an idea that's been around forever, right? Have really successful people talk and people want to listen. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, great. So where should we have them talk, right? And I remember when we approached certain influencers, there was this question about, well, can't we do the same thing on Twitter? And what we found really interesting is that the 140 character gap actually didn't make it meaty enough for a lot of these influencers to really kind of get their point across. So when you have somebody from the World Economic Forum really kind of talking about his or her insights of globalization, that's news people want to read about. But that doesn't show up in the New York Times because it's not breaking news, but it's something that's really kind of important, especially if you're within that field. So when our influencers started writing about crazy things like what inspires them, what they see from their desk, how they feel about certain things, etc., it just caught on like wildfire. And I remember we're all like, you know what, I think we got something here. And I do believe it was a Hack Day project. We have this thing at LinkedIn, to where people can, hack on the code, they can build their own products, they can work on their own thing. You can really kind of carve your own path. And somebody said, wouldn't it be great if, and we built it. And it's now one of the most successful parts of the product. So, super cool. Cool? Other questions? Hi. I'll get to you guys, I promise.
I choose not to get up. I'm a grad student in communication planning and information science.
Okay.
And so you talked a little bit about teamwork. So I was wondering, what are the biggest things that you've learned from engineers, and what have engineers taught you?
Biggest things I've learned from engineers just in general?
It can be,
Yeah, so engineering limitations are something that we always have to understand. I choose to ignore it often, though. And the reason is because I think that if we have a really good idea, we shouldn't let certain engineering limitations make it so that that's not realized, right? What I've learned probably the most from engineering, though, is that math does matter. And what I mean by that is that there's just certain things that physically are not necessarily possible when you're talking about a smaller screen versus a larger screen. Everything may not be responsive. This may work great on this browser, but not that browser. So those little nuances that you kind of take for granted, because when you do a fireworks mock, it doesn't show up. Did that get to your question? Okay, I think we have time for one more, and then we're time. Because I gave you the notepad, so we already have a connection. Yes, sir.
First, I'm more of a mentor of computer infection. The question is, I find some of my friends, they find it's okay to search people they barely know on Facebook, but they feel like awkward to search people they are getting, they're just getting to know some new, like for example, we are having a new client, and one of my teammates wants to search for that person, but they feel awkward to search that person on LinkedIn. So she actually had to use the incognito model in.
She had to go in, stealth herself out, and go search.
Very interesting. Is this like a culture thing? Like how to deal with that? Is that might be an opportunity for LinkedIn?
I have no, and I'm going to ask Julie because I think she's research on this. I have no idea. I wish I did, right? It's like, I'll search you out on Facebook, I'll follow you on Twitter, I'll stalk you on everything. I want to look at you on LinkedIn. I don't get that, honestly. I think it's probably because since we show you who's looked at you, that makes some people uncomfortable. So I guess I can understand that. But I'm not sure if we have any data behind it. Yes, we do.
The stakes are a little higher on LinkedIn. People perceive the stakes as a bit higher because it's about your livelihood, it's about your future and your career. So you don't want to be seen as making any kind of missteps. And it's perceived perhaps as hard to interpret on the other end. It's like, why does this person think that I'm looking at them? So you may think you're raising questions. If you looked at Steve's profile, he might be wondering, what the heck, why is this
I always
person
think that. I'm like, dude, why are you looking at me?
But I mean, that's what we think anyway, that those kinds of, that's the same reason we see hesitations for sharing updates on LinkedIn or things like that, because people are just very protective of their professional identity.
Okay, so to the room. Are we good for 2 more questions? Because I felt really bad when you gave me that boo-boo look. You just like your whole lip kind of limp. So, should we get out of here or 2 more questions? 2 more questions? Yes, sir.
My name's Jonathan.
Hey,
I'm
man.
the Human Computer Interaction Program.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been using LinkedIn to manage my occupational capital for as long as I
like
can
that.
remember.
If I steal that, are you okay?
That's great.
I'm taking that.
And I have to build my visual portfolio before tomorrow. Can I do that on LinkedIn?
Depends on how big your portfolio is.
When is the big visual overhaul?
Okay, so you're saying when are we going to launch the pieces that I showed you earlier? God, that's going to be probably the middle of the year. So, no, no, I'm sorry. Okay, very last question. Oh, sorry, hi.
I wanted to ask, before you said that
What's your name?
Sohi, and I'm industrial design.
Do you choose to stay seated?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I'm journalist.
All right, go ahead.
But you said that design without business goals is equivalent to decoration.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to question that. And would you define business goals different from design goals? And if it is different, would you have to sacrifice a lot of your design goals in order to accommodate those business goals?
No. Give me what your definition is of a design goal.
I guess design in the bigger sense where you're specifically designing for the user and you're just solving those problems.
For what end?
For the end of creating a product that would better the user's experience.
That's the business goal. The point that I'm getting at is this. I've had some people that they'll just design because they have no ultimate business goal, so they just keep on kind of adding to it. They're never satisfied with it. Have you ever done something that like you go away from, you come back, you add something else, you add something else, you add something else. You keep on adding because you have no deadline. If you have a business goal, you understand when you've achieved minimal quality products. So now we have definitely fulfilled what it is that we need in order to sustain this business. We can ship that one. Now we can start working on version 2. My thing about design without business goals is really so that you understand you need a goal. You need something of which allows you to measure back, have we done well enough that we can now deploy this, or does it just go on forever, right? It's like when my son's playing with Legos, there is no goal. He's just gonna play with them forever. Or like when he's in Minecraft, Bryce, what are you building? Stuff. That's great, right? With designers that work at LinkedIn, if I don't give people some level of what's your goal, what are the 3 to 5 things that you think are very important, and who's your member? If they can't answer those questions, I don't let them deploy the product, because it means that it's just out there. It's like, oh, I thought it was pretty, so I would do this, and that's just useless to me. Did that get to your question? Okay. I promised them we were done, but go ahead. Yeah, if it's a follow-on, then we can stay, so go ahead. Because it's not a new question, it's like an addition.
It's like an additional
Right.
question to that.
It's like a layup of which you will put it. Okay, deal, go for it. And then we are done.
So what if like Zoe was trying to differentiate the design goal with the business goal, but what if the business goal is like something on the interface that brings profit to LinkedIn, but not necessarily a design goal where it kind of messes up with the aesthetic of the interface or...
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am one of the few design leaders in the Valley that doesn't have this problem, honestly. At my previous company, I did, where, well, we can make more money if, right? And we don't do that at LinkedIn. If you go to the LinkedIn homepage right now, there's not a lot of ads on it. There's like probably maybe 1, 2 at the max, but we don't like obliterate it. And again, back to my earlier statement, I can't bag on anyone at the competition, but we all know those sites that have sold you guys out. Like every single page has 15 or 20 different ads. And the second you surfed for like, I don't know, a Volkswagen Beetle, now every single time you surf the web, there's like Beetle ads, that kind of thing. That's when you're trading profits for a good experience. We absolutely don't do that. So what Jeff, our CEO, and Deep Nishar, SVP of product, what they're both aligned to is we're going to be members first. The company needs to make money. So we need to monetize things, but we're not going to sacrifice a member experience to make money, because as I showed you with the Consumer Reports ad, it will come back to bite us. It's just a matter of time before people say, I don't need this anymore. I'll go someplace else because I feel that I'm being sold to, not spoken to, especially from a tool that's supposed to be helpful. Did that answer your question? Okay, if any of you want to get in touch with me, here's my contact info. Thanks for your time. Oh, wait, we're going to do her drawing.